Today's video is all about hot pepper sauce, fermenting your own Tabasco, and a peek at Avery Island, the home of the Tabasco brand pepper sauce.
Heat cannot be separated from fire, or beauty from the eternal. Dante Alighieri.
At the height of summer, when the spicy peppers have adorned themselves with gloriously deeply hued and fiery fruit dangling from every branch, those of us in the little house brave the UV of the southern sun to harvest the peppers and create our own fermented siracha and pepper sauces, which normally last us most of the year. This is how we do it now. But back in the day when the color avocado was being splashed across kitchens with startling abandon while being deemed the pinnacle of home decor, and our parents collectively lost their minds and did indeed dress us funny, cutting our hair in bowl-shaped cuts to signal the complete loss of any cultural fashion sense, the table in our little house was punctuated at almost every meal with a Tabasco bottle. My darling father was a big fan of Tabasco sauce, and my little sister, my pixelated sidekick, and I were big fans of my father, so Tabasco was enthusiastically embraced by our dynamic duo. Up to this point, in my 4.5 years of knowing him, my father had rarely steered me wrong. He loved beef jerky, artichoke hearts, cheese, guacamole, and Oreos. Though we did think his sharing game was less than stellar, as there seemed to be arbitrary limits placed on our consumption of all the above, and there was that questionable moment when he went off the rails with deviled ham on white bread every day for lunch, which we truly tried our best to appreciate, eventually concluding that someone had broken our father's otherwise good taste with the questionable canned meat. But with our combined 6 years of wisdom, we also agreed that no one is perfect, and thus continued to mimic his Tabasco habits until it was on everything from our eggs to our tacos. And this familial trait was running strong through all 6 of my own Pixie persons until it hit a wall with number 7, the Golden Pixie. While spicy sauces are a favorite for the majority of the little house, the Golden Pixie likes the idea of it in theory only, but in practice would rather it was kept far away from her food. She prefers her peppers to behave with a proper amount of decorum and civility, if they are to spend any time at all on her plate and as a part of her diet. However, she is all for a bit of kitchen alchemy, from which all her favorite people will benefit, and thus the creation of uniquely delicious pepper sauces was embarked upon with great enthusiasm. The newest element to our spicy alchemy came about when early in the spring we came across a beautiful selection of hot pepper starts, including sriracha, Tabasco, cayenne, poblanos, and a particularly ghastly ghost pepper plant at our favorite plant nursery. Excitedly, we loaded our cart with a plethora of the Tabasco plants, multiple srirachas, poblanos, and cayennes, and 2 extra hot pepper plants, whose tags boasted that they were the hottest peppers in all of the land. Whose land was a bit unclear to us, but we decided not to quibble over semantics with the prideful plants, and instead, since one of them had the word ghost right in his name, we thought we should limit ourselves to just one of his type. The Golden Pixie thought he might still be one too many, and she frowned doubtfully at his being tucked in among the other less threatening plants. After all, you know what they say about one bad apple, or being cautious in your choice of companions, as you are the reflection of the company you keep. She felt sure this was applicable for peppers and their wicked cousins, as well as for humans. The Pixie also does not approve of ghostly anythings taking up residence in her potager, particularly if the spirited plant has a wicked bite. Despite her trepidation, we situated all the peppers in their buckets and beds, and we followed the growth of the Tabasco plants with a great deal of curiosity, as we had never grown them ourselves. When the clever little pepper plants shot up to almost pixie height and began bursting into thousands of tiny yellow peppers, the Pixies began an active Tabasco pepper readiness watch, which involved a constant checking of pepper coloration until perfect red hues were reached. It was at this point in our pepper empire's infancy that we realized we might want to do a bit of reconnaissance work, and see how the world's most popular hot sauce creates their legendary products. And since Avery Island, the ancestral home of the McIlhenny family, who established Tabasco as a household name, is just down the road from us, as the crow flies, well, if he's young, strong, and has a lot of time on his wings, we simply took a little trip back to where it all began. Tabasco's official story has Edmund McIlhenny from Maryland arriving in Louisiana in 1840 to continue in the banking sector from which he came, but who, through a series of fateful events, including falling in love and marrying Mary Eliza Avery, with whom he had 8 children, the economic collapse of the South with the Civil War and reparations, and the dissolution of his banks, McIlhenny moved into his in-laws' plantation house on Avery Island, where legend has it he tended the family garden and inadvertently fell into the pepper sauce business, causing a rather large splash. His inadvertent tumble may have been more of a push. In fact, there is some evidence that Edmund was given Tabasco seeds in a recipe for a sauce by his friend Mansell White, who believed in the health-building properties of his favorite pepper and who had been growing the prolific little Tabasco peppers for 20 years already, bottling his own pepper sauce for friends and family and packaging them in small cologne bottles while giving out seeds to friends to help encourage their proliferation across Louisiana. The Tabasco Company, however, thinks not, and since we were not there, well, their bio contends that McIlhenny invented his sauce in the late 1860s, leaving the details of acquiring and first growing the pepper seeds a bit murky. They did, however, begin to bottle the sauce, selling it under the label of Tabasco brand pepper sauce, and obtaining letters patent in 1870, making Tabasco an official brand. It was distributed throughout the Gulf Coast in corked 2-ounce cologne-style bottles with the familiar diamond-shaped logo at first, but quickly expanded in early 1870, reaching larger markets for McIlhenny's spicy pepper sauce, such as New York, Philly, and Boston. After Edmund McIlhenny's death in 1890, his 2 sons, John Avery and Edward Avery McIlhenny, took the foundation their father had meticulously laid and set about modernizing and expanding the manufacturing of Tabasco sauce and growing it into an empire, without losing the simple methods that had created the well-loved sauce to begin with. John Avery headed the company for only a short time before joining Teddy Roosevelt's Rough Riders, and upon his departure, his brother Edward, fresh off of an Arctic exploration, took the reins of the company and continued its growth, alongside designing a 170-acre botanical garden where Edward's collections of exotic botanicals, hundreds of varieties of azaleas, climbing vines, bamboo, and shrubs thrive alongside live oaks and other native flora. A beautiful bird sanctuary sits in the midst with wildlife from deer to alligators, making themselves to home in the beautiful jungle garden. In the center of a specially designed Asian landscape sits a 900-year-old Buddha who serenely keeps watch over the residents of the botanical grounds. 150 years and 5 generations of McIlhenny family members have continued to steward these acres of productive and beautiful land in southern Louisiana very well. And the world's love for the familiar shaped bottle of pepper sauce with its iconic diamond label has continued unabated for nearly the same amount of time. Even in the loftier circles of palace life, the familiar pungent bite of Tabasco has brightened up the royal menu for decades and was finally granted a royal warrant in 2009 by Her Majesty the Queen. The Golden Pixie raised an eyebrow at the introduction of this new information, eyeing her basket of tiny red peppers with a newfound respect and thoughtfulness. I mean, if it was good enough for the Queen, the Golden Pixie might entertain the thought of sampling some of the previously highly suspect Tabasco sauce. Or not. It may take a bit more than a royal nod of approval to move the gauge on the acceptable condiments in the Pixie's culinary world. Perhaps for now, Tabasco ought not to hold its breath in anticipation of a golden pixelated warrant being forthcoming. While in the beginning all the Tabasco plants were grown on the Avery Island plantation, which is situated not on an island as the name might suggest, but on a salt dome, which stands 165 feet tall, stretches approximately 2,200 acres, and is surrounded by wetlands, and from which most of the salt used in the aging process and creation of Tabasco is mined, the current pepper plants are grown purely for seed. These seeds are carefully selected from the finest plants on the island before being sent around the world from Guatemala to Mozambique to farms contracted to grow the little pepper with a big kick for the production of Tabasco sauce. At the time of harvest, peppers are hand-picked and ground to a mash with a small percentage of salt solution added, after which they are left to ferment for a month before making their journey to Avery Island, where they will be aged for 3 years in decharred bourbon barrels, stacked 6 high and stretching as far as the eye can see. The barrel tops are also coated with salt, and the carbon dioxide, a byproduct of the fermenting process, is released through a valve on the top of the sealed barrels. Once fermentation has finished, the salt forms a solid seal over the entire barrel top. Upon reaching its 3rd birthday, the pepper mash is mixed with vinegar, and the whole matter is aged for another month approximately before the final product is bottled and distributed to your favorite stores, diners, and dinner tables, as well as palaces apparently. Interestingly, once the process is complete, the remaining pepper mash is sold to a pharmaceutical company, which uses the remnants to create medicinal products and pepper sprays. After an altogether impressive tour of the Tabasco plant, we all headed over to the gift shop to try a few interesting new flavors and creations using Tabasco, which is how we can confirm with a great deal of certainty that the Golden Pixie and the dark-haired Pixie do not approve of hot sauce masquerading as ice cream. The Pixies, too, implored me to never attempt such an unholy combination in our own kitchen, under any circumstances. This was not a difficult concession, as I'm pretty sure we were all on the same page here. Overall, both Tabasco and the adjoining jungle garden are absolutely worth the trip, and after an exhausting day of exploring Avery Island, we headed home with our prized discovery, a small bâton rouge, the stick used to check the ripeness of all Tabasco fruit. We were now ready for that final step in the growth of our own Tabasco fruit. It turns out ours needed a few weeks more to reach that perfect little red stick coloring, so we waited impatiently alongside our already red jalapenos and cayennes for that big moment to arrive. And then finally, one morning, the peppers agreed almost in unison that they were ready, and off the Pixies went to harvest the long-anticipated little fruit. This enthusiasm lasted all of about 6 minutes, before it became abundantly clear that harvesting approximately 3,582,000 tiny red spicy peppers is not for the faint of heart. Halfway through our picking, the Tabasco plants seemed to be expanding and multiplying, and the Pixies began to suspect the pepper plants were actively working against them. But eventually, the Pixies filled their basket, and then the real fun began. Prepping and cutting up the peppers into our version of a mash using disposable gloves to prevent pepper burns and drinking copious amounts of water to make up for the noxious pepper fumes wafting through the room was the second longest job of pepper sauce creating. Once everything was chopped and contained in a glass jar, we covered the pepper mash with a Celtic saltwater brine in which 2 tablespoons of salt was combined with 1 quart of water and stirred until the salt had dissolved. Once the brine solution was ready, it was poured over the peppers in a quart-sized mason jar, and a lid with a fermenting lock was tightened in place. And now, the waiting period. For our fermenting peppers, it was also a time of joyously bubbling up to overflow the jar at least 3 times a day for a couple of days, until it reached the exact level of brine it approved of, and settled down to work on becoming a hot sauce. And we waited, and waited, and waited. Until finally, upon reaching the 1-month mark, we decided our wait was over, and the next phase of our Tabasco-ish pepper sauce was ready to happen. The fermentation process had taken approximately 1 month of sitting on the counter and had left us with a spicy, tangy brine and softened peppers for straining. We poured the Tabasco peppers and their friends into a hand-cranked mill after separating them from most of their brine and milled the peppers until the seeds and skins were the only thing left, after which we combined the extraction with a good cup of raw apple cider vinegar and mixed it well and poured it back into a jar. This jar was then labeled and placed in the refrigerator for what should be another month before using, just to let the heat and the flavors mellow. Well, that is a wait that simply wasn't going to happen in the little house, so of course we tried it immediately. And oh my glory, it tastes just like Tabasco, and boy is it spicy. The second pepper sauce we made was a Jamaican hot pepper, ghost pepper, and peaches combo, which we also milled after a month of fermentation, combined with a cup of apple cider vinegar and a half a cup of organic brown sugar. And once again, because we're gluttons for punishment, we tried this one before refrigerating it. It's safe to say that the ghost peppers weren't lying about their Scoville heat units. It was both a lovely flavored sauce and a very painful one. Hopefully, a month of mellowing will teach it some manners. The Golden Pixie tested the Tabasco sauce and then drank a cup of milk to put out the fire, before musing that if it was unsafe for her to even touch the peppers, why would anyone in their right mind want to take the chance of eating this volatile substance? Well, capsaicin, the phytochemical which gives you the spicy bite in hot peppers, is in abundant supply in the Tabasco, ghost, jalapeno, cayenne peppers, and more. Capsaicin is known to give you a rush of endorphins, which are a natural pain reliever and mood enhancer. It aids in digestion, speeds up metabolism, and can even be useful in relieving symptoms of irritable bowel syndrome and reflux. It's been shown to decrease systemic inflammation and oxidative stress, improves the management of diabetes, and has shown great effect in fighting cancer, and is well known for its ability to help with weight loss. When we create a lacto-fermented hot sauce, we allow the beneficial probiotic bacteria, lactobacillus, necessary for good gut health to create a thriving community in our pepper sauce, which will in turn help us to unlock nutrients and break them down for absorption into our bodies. The capsaicin in spicy peppers is also known to be able to kill a plethora of bad microbes attempting to inhabit our guts at any given time. For us, the combination of our favorite hot condiment and fermentation is simply a no-brainer. The caveat is that if one has never really used hot peppers or their sauces, then one should definitely start out slow and not jump into the hot pepper ocean with both feet. Work your way into it a bit at a time for the benefits and the enjoyment. In the end, 1,000,000 Tabasco peppers does not equal a huge amount of finished sauce. And buying a bottle of Tabasco is definitely a bit cheaper than the process we just went through. But where's the learning in that? You may have noticed that this world with its instant everythings has a bit of an attention span problem, and definitely the process of waiting on something can be difficult. However, I know that you know that the best things in life are often the ones we've had to be patient with, to wait on, and to work for. The fermenting of any food is an exercise in constraint and patience that can feel like it drags on forever, but in the end, the benefits of that slow process of building a community of beneficial microbes to enhance your food's nutritional value is so worth it for your health. And it's also pretty darn tasty as well. We hope you will consider trying your hand at doing something the old-fashioned way with enough of your own creativity mixed in to make it brand new. We hope you enjoyed today's video and that you'll consider liking the video, commenting, and even subscribing to our channel, as it all helps us to continue to grow. Thanks for watching. See you next time.